Welcome back to Birds of a Feather Talk Together. Today we talk about the Greater Roadrunner. These super fast birds that live in the southwestern US are iconic to most people because of the cartoon, but they also have some amazing and unique adaptations to be able to live in the desert. We have a ton of fun talking about this bird, and also get into a little bit of the history of the cartoon. We also answer a question on the feather thief and John's role in the book. I didn't bring this up when we were recording, but there's a part where we talk about roadrunners working together to hunt snakes. Doesn't this remind you of velociraptors? Let us know what you think when you get to that part of the episode. Okay, go grab your binoculars and let's get into it. All right, well, welcome back to Birds of a Feather Talk Together. This is RJ, and I'm with John, Shannon, and Amanda, and we're back in the studio. It's nice to see everybody's faces again.
Yeah.
So we
It's
were
been a
remote
while.
for a little while.
It's good to be together.
So I had a nice note. So someone from our Lake Cook Audubon chapter, Linda, said that she had contacted you, John. She said that she listened to our Purple Martin episode, and Shannon mentioned something about low numbers of martins in the museum's collection. So she said this year she had 14 unmatched eggs plus a dead 2-week-old bird. She dropped them off with John last week for the collection. I never would have thought of that if it wasn't for the podcast, so thanks to you all. So I just wanted to call out something nice that Linda, we made an impact and she was able to contribute. So.
Yeah, that's
nice.
wonderful.
We're baby birds we have virtually zero in the collection across almost all species. So good for her.
Yeah.
But you know what it reminds me of? That people are listening.
You don't like to think about that.
I don't think about that.
What else do you want?
A cochlear implant. That's what I want. I was denied again. Because single-sided deafness is not a disability according to Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois. So I want every person in the leadership of that to see what it's like to only hear from one ear. I want them to try to find their children in their house. And they can't tell where sound is coming.
Birds in the trees.
Birds in the trees.
Yeah.
So I wish that on all Blue Cross Blue Shield administrators as of today, which is why I'm in such a bad mood.
Gosh, I'm sorry, Shannon.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Or someone can loan me $100,000 and I'll self-fund.
Oh, that's how much a cochlear implant is?
It could cost insurance that. It doesn't necessarily cost you that if you were to self-fund, but that's among the dollar figures that they would charge insurance.
Oh my gosh.
So it's obvious why Blue Cross Blue Shield doesn't want to approve this.
Yeah.
Illinois is a fairly progressive state, and for this to be their response is pretty disappointing, especially when I can go to Florida and Texas, North Dakota, North Carolina, and South Dakota and get one.
They would approve it there?
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
Many of these places, without even needing authorization, your doctor can just say that you need it and it gets covered, but not here. So.
Oh, gosh.
But the fight is not over. There will be lawyers and lobbying now involved.
Okay.
Because they completely ignored my scientific treatise that I gave to them, which I do not find acceptable.
Oh.
They didn't respond at all.
Really?
To any of the logical things I have, the data-driven things I have in my appeal. It's beyond annoying.
Oh.
Are you getting a lawyer involved then, or?
Well, I don't know. Okay. I don't have enough money to have a lawyer, but somebody's got to do something.
Right.
I mean, how many single-sided deaf people are there in this state that can't get any relief from this without this operation? This technology exists, and you can have it most places, but you can't have it here?
Yeah. Well, you have a platform now, Shannon, so hopefully somebody listening knows somebody that can help and can step in, because, I mean, that sounds unfair.
Now it goes to lobbying the Department of Insurance of the state of Illinois. Someone's got to have a rationale for this, and I'm not quitting until there's an intellectual discussion that is had.
No. Oh. Gosh.
Anyway, sorry, everyone.
No, sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Jeez.
All right, well, should we talk about the Roadrunner?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Roadrunner.
I'm trying to think of a segue. Shannon.
Yeah, there is no.
Know.
I told you I was in a bad mood, and now you know why.
Did you just find out? That
Yeah.
you were, oh, gosh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, gosh. All right, so the Roadrunner. So we're excited about this one.
Yep.
Yeah, so we were...
State bird in New Mexico.
Oh, nice.
So John, we were wondering in Arizona, did you see a lot of them?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. They're definitely common around Tucson, and it was always fun to watch them and see them. And at the same time, they can be pretty discreet, and so you don't notice them sometimes too.
Oh.
No, they're a neat bird.
Cool.
I think they're both cool and funny. Some of their behaviors. I mean, they run faster than any other bird. They run way faster than humans.
Wow.
So they're pretty astonishing. Any other bird that flies, I suppose.
I was going to say, I don't think they could beat an ostrich.
Yeah, ostriches run pretty fast. But
it'd be fun to see a race.
And they have really distinctive postures when you see them, and that when they start moving, they're almost horizontal to the ground. So they kind of are all bent over in that way when they run. It's adorable.
Yeah, we were looking at videos online, and we'd seen pictures of them before, and we always thought the cartoon of them was like exaggerating, but when we looked at like videos, you could actually see they are like pretty horizontal when they're running. It was really cool looking.
Yeah.
That was one of those out-of-body bird experiences, because I did watch Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner cartoons as a kid. It was one of my favorite, if not probably my favorite one. And the idea that we were in Arizona, and the idea that I opened my eyes and saw a Roadrunner, I'm like, wow, they exist in real life.
It's real, yeah.
They're not just cartoons.
I think it's definitely one of those birds that when people go to the Southwest, they're super excited when they see their first Roadrunner, and it lives up to expectations.
Yeah.
They're neat birds.
And so they're pretty unique as far as like living in the desert, right? And as far as the Southwest, there's certain...
Yeah, I mean, so they're members of the cuckoo family, which is interesting because cuckoos are a really old family of birds with sister taxa to the rails and things, or who knows?
That's a tenuous part of the tree of life. But they have had some interesting things. We did an episode on the Hawatson, right? And the Hawatson has been variously considered part of the Cuculiformes, or the order that contains cuckoos. I don't think that that's true, but there has been limited evidence. And if you get past the cuckoo propers, what a cuckoo is not so easy to know.
But but across the group, which is found all the way on all the major continents except Antarctica, there are multiple origins of ground-dwelling cuckoos. Nothing really like a roadrunner in a desert in any of the other countries or the other continents, but there are other ground-dwelling cuckoos in forests, for instance, too, some of which are really neat. But roadrunners are definitely special. There are two species in the genus. So there's another one called lesser roadrunner in Mexico. That's a little bit smaller, but otherwise looks really similar.
Okay.
And they're not particularly common. You're not going to see a 20 or 30 in a day, but you see one or two, and it's really neat.
And I read that they actually do kind of hang out by roads. Like that's a real thing because there's prey near roads. It's like...
I was trying to look it up. There's actually a funny scientific study, pseudoscientific study, where they were trying to assess whether roadrunners always cross left to right or right to left. And I didn't find it before the... But I mean, I think probably for the kinds of things that they eat, which are lizards and things, roads are really good places to go hunting. And so that's one of the reasons why you really do see them along roads all the time.
And I saw that like when they hunt that they can eat poisonous things without any, like, it doesn't harm them. There's like poisonous snakes.
I don't know why though.
Yeah.
But they also, they are brutal. If a rattlesnake is nothing to them, and their behavior associated with feeding these things that are fairly large is really quite something. And there's lots of videos of them smashing the head of a snake. And so they'll have one of their partners distract the snake, and then the other one will, while the snake is distracted, grab it by the head. Wow. And then to disable it, they smash its head on rocks.
Wow.
Continuously until it's dead.
So I was thinking about this, and there are some big rattlesnakes, and my guess is there are a few rattlesnakes that have actually won those battles.
No.
I got the feeling that it's
Not enough to make them think twice, though.
well, but they're definitely they're opportunistic predators, and so they'll raid nests and take nestlings of other birds. There's a video out there of one that actually jumps up and grabs a hummingbird at a feeder.
Oh gosh.
Which just kind of that's the height of opportunism from my perspective.
Well, they eat scorpions. That's interesting.
Yeah.
How does that stinger not?
I don't know. I didn't spend enough time looking to see if they know how they can ingest these toxins without suffering the effects of them. I don't know.
Oh,
That's crazy.
I saw a thing that they also will eat a rattlesnake and they'll only be able to fit like half of it in their mouth, so the dead rattlesnake will hang out of its mouth for like an extended period of time
Until it's small enough to be swallowed.
Yeah,
It's digested enough to go
so
down.
gross.
This is gross. Right.
This is interesting because I was just thinking about how little we know about the internal structures of most birds, and nobody's probably studied the internal anatomy of a roadrunner. But my guess is there might be some interesting adaptations to deal with some of that.
Yeah. We do know a few things about their muscle attachments and stuff. So their muscles are attached differently to let them be horizontal to the ground and to have their legs on the outside. So, they do have skeletal changes associated with running in the way that they do, which is pretty interesting.
And they can fly a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So they not far, but they can use it once in a while.
Okay.
And so the way you do that, when you look at muscles, is, you compare it to other things that might run, but you have to compare it to other things that it's closely related to that don't run, so that you can really see the shifts that are accompanying that kind of behavior. So, in this case, you look at the pelvis and where the muscles are attaching, and they're further forward, and the leg muscles are more towards the outsides. All of those things facilitate using your legs a lot and being kind of bent over like that. So that bird's got a lot of adaptations for not just running, but for living in a desert. Well, clearly have some kind of adaptation for swallowing scorpions.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and rattlesnakes.
Yeah.
And poisonous lizards.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Which an account I read of that said that they were very careful to turn the spiny things on the lizards inward so that it could slide down the mouth and not get caught.
Oh, wow.
So
That's amazing.
So clearly they're not intimidated by things that...
I would argue that that's a pretty good example of pretty strong natural selection.
Oh.
If you do it wrong, you
choke
don't
to
live to tell about it.
Yeah, exactly.
But yet you can fit a snake in your throat and breathe and get around with... like, how did that...
Again, there are probably a few ones that
it didn't work.
Rattlesnakes that were too big, and
Yeah.
we've had a few instances in the museum where we've gotten salvaged birds that, like a white pelican, for instance, that literally got a fish that it swallowed the wrong way get stuck in the throat. So it happens.
But it's more frequent to see birds with balloons that are stuck in it, right?
Okay.
So that letting go of balloons outdoors is a really bad thing for wildlife. It gets in the water too. Other things will accidentally feed on it in the water, and it just clogs everything up, and they starve to death, or it gets wrapped around other organs inside. It's pretty sad.
It is sad.
So keep your balloons inside.
Yeah.
We need to make, I wonder if there are dissolvable balloons that I don't know, that don't
idea.
leave.
There's $1 million idea.
Yeah.
Shannon.
Plastic residue.
They wouldn't hold air.
Yeah.
Yes, it would.
Not if they're dissolvable. They break apart. That's the definition of dissolvable.
Yeah, but when you have water balloons, they stay together until you throw them at something.
That's because of what they're made of.
I think it could be done.
You just need it to last for like an hour or a couple hours.
Yeah, it doesn't need to last for a long time to make a kid happy.
Yeah.
Well, so I wanted to ask about some of the things that they can do to like survive in the desert. I saw that there was something about like the way that they secrete things out of their eyes, which sounded like that's something that a lot of other birds can do too that I wasn't aware of.
If you think about where that bird lives in the desert where it's hot and there's not necessarily all that much water reliably anyways, they get most of their water from what they eat, which is an advantage of eating like small mammals and stuff because they're pretty full of water. But using your kidneys to excrete toxic wastes is water intensive. So if you put it out your eyeballs, it doesn't cost as much water. So it's a method of water conservation, but it is kind of bizarre to think of, peeing out your eyes. I suppose. I mean, that's essentially what they're doing. They're getting rid of the waste, but out their eyes.
I think it takes a lot of the stigma away.
Yeah.
From what? Peeing out your eyes?
Yeah. It's like,
I don't know. I don't think I'd try it if I were you.
Yeah, if you could do that at Lollapalooza, you wouldn't have to go
that would be amazing.
Exactly.
The 5,000 trillion porta potties that are all over
the things
place.
we can learn from nature.
Oh, I know. I wouldn't have to get up at night.
That's right.
But your bed would be disgusting.
That's okay.
You'd have to have like one of those cat cones or dog cones of shame on your head to prevent your pillows and your blankets and your sheets from getting all...
Roadrunners don't have those.
No. They don't sleep in beds with nice sheets either. So
I mean, a lot of the Roadrunner would be another example of a bird that has behavioral adaptations from the perspective of sort of getting into the shade on the really hot days too. So they're pretty smart about conserving energy that way.
they also basically go into a torpor at night. When it's cold, they lower their body temperature pretty far down and saving energy and not using water again for metabolism. So they slow their metabolism way down, and then they have a black patch of skin on their neck. And so when they want to wake up, it's like having your own heating pad. They turn it to the sun, ruffle the feathers up a bit, and then the sun hits the black skin and warms them back up.
Oh, cool.
So they start slow, but awesome. They have a behavioral adaptation to both conserve energy and water at night and to get themselves back up. I mean, birds are homeotherms, just like mammals are. So they need to have a constant body temperature. They couldn't fly in the way they do if they didn't. But, you know, there's trade-offs of that, which is you have to spend a lot of energy to keep your body temperature that high, and it costs a lot of water in metabolism to do that. So, you know, these birds kind of turn it off at night and then wake it back up.
Wow. That's so cool. So where do they sleep at night? Do they sleep in the open or?
That's a good question. I actually don't know the answer to that.
I mean, how much do we know about where any bird actually sleeps?
I've wondered about that
That's
a lot. We talk about that all the time.
Yeah,
so there are now infrared binoculars that are expensive, but you can actually go around, and because they're giving off heat, you can see the birds at night, and so that would be fun to fool around
That's awesome.
I mean,
yes.
do birds sleep through the night?
Yeah.
That's a good
Do they
question.
dream?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I would bet a lot of money that the ones with higher neuron densities dream. I think there's no way something like a crow and a raven with all of the play behavior and higher order intellectual capacities they have to learn things, I bet you they dream at night.
Again, my guess is there's some data on that in chickens or something like that. Do chickens dream?
I don't know. I'm not sure I care that much. But I do care whether corvids dream at night.
Yeah.
But one thing I was also going to bring up about Roadrunners, which is interesting to me is that they're definitely a desert Southwest bird, but their distribution actually goes all the way east to Louisiana.
Oh, wow.
Just barely into Louisiana and north into Arkansas, and then over in California, they get all the way up into the Central Valley. And if folks know something about the Central Valley, it's getting hotter, and that may actually be good for roadrunners.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. Wow.
So they could be expanding actually because of the heat that's allowing them to maybe go.
So I wonder whether it may be a combination of things. It may be expanding because of the heat and expanding because of the lack of the cold in the winter. So they have a thermal tolerance zone probably that's a little more defined than a lot of things, and those kinds of things are changing across Western North America.
And they also, their colors are very common colors in birds that are adapted to deserts, these pale browns and buffy colors. They do have some skin on their face that's brightly colored, which is interesting.
And they don't really know. I mean, that's something that shows up in a few cuckoo species, but it's not clear why. Meaning, do they use it for mate recognition or sexual selection? People have never really figured all that out.
Oh, that's interesting.
I mean, other adaptations, birds don't sweat in the way, humans do. And so they have to dissipate heat in other ways. Some birds, like toucans, use their beaks to get rid of heat. These birds have this gular flapping thing that they do with the skin on below their chin on their throat. So that is a way of rapidly exchanging heat, because the issue is you need to have a high body temperature, but if it goes too high, just like humans can die, the birds can die too. So they have to dissipate heat in the dead of the day. Do you know if day activities have been done on them? Do they
somebody must have
go
done
away
some
during the
hottest parts of the day?
They'll
absolutely be more active in the morning when it's a little cooler at the height of summer, and then shut it down for a long period of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a hot environment.
Yeah.
To be outside all the time. Do birds get sunburns? Or do their feathers protect from getting too much sun on there?
I think that's a huge adaptation. Well, so then there's the question: do turkey vultures get sunburn on the head? Because
well, they have. They might be protected from that by the dark skin that's on their head. But
or it's just red and you can't tell.
They're burned
They're
all the time.
All sunburnt.
Yes.
Who knows? But they're also revered in lots of cultures too, which I kind of like. Courage, speed, strength, endurance. So they're part of a lot of Native American myths and tribes in Mexico's myths and stuff like that, which is, they've earned that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
I saw something that the Pueblo tribe says that they use their symbols of their feet to ward off evil, because it says that their feet is like an X shape.
Yeah.
Which is a characteristic of the cuckoos.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
So they've evolved to have two toes back and two forward.
Oh, so all cuckoos are like that?
Yeah,
it's
all
called
cuckoos are like that.
zygodactyly.
Oh, interesting.
So they've rotated a toe.
Okay. So their footprints, you can't tell which direction they're going, it sounded like.
Yeah. Well, that's
yeah.
And what's interesting is I think for a terrestrial bird like that gives them a measure of stability that can be probably pretty useful. But then you get birds like yellow-billed cuckoo and black-billed cuckoo that also have that same zygodactyly. And I don't know what the advantage would be for those birds. And as a matter of fact, in general, what you can't do with that is you don't do much handling with your feet.
Oh, okay.
Which is something that some of these other birds in the passeriforms, like crows and things, will definitely do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a fascinating group just because they've been around for a long period of evolutionary time and in relative to other land birds, and they've been really successful.
Not every part of them is sweet and gentle, though. They do eat their own. If food is shortage or water is short, they'll eat their own young. So,
is that special to them, or are there other birds that do that?
There are other birds that do that.
Okay,
but they do have other things in their mating behaviors that are pretty cool. They have these ritualized dances that, if you look at videos of them, are funny.
Nice.
So that's good.
They have these neat vocalizations, which you don't hear very often, which are these kind of series of, I wouldn't call them hoops, but whoops or something. And it was one of those things as a kid where you heard it rarely enough that when you did hear it, the first thing was, what is that? And then it's suddenly like, oh my gosh, it's a Roadrunner.
Oh, that's
cool.
so exciting.
and
awesome.
we had that. I had that experience actually, and one that we saw when I was in graduate school in extreme southwestern Louisiana. Is I heard this thing and it was like, wait a minute, what is that? Oh my gosh, it's a Roadrunner. And sure enough, there was one sitting on top of this big wood pile out in this brushy pine forest.
Cool.
That is crazy.
I guess on territory, and that's amazing that those birds are, in spite of the fact that they're adapted to these desert landscapes, have actually spread into some non-desert areas across their distribution.
That's cool.
So their vocalizations tend towards cooing, but not in the same way that mourning doves coo. I do not react the same way to their vocalizations. I knew you guys were going to bring that up.
They're not whining?
Yes.
No, it doesn't sound like a whine, not in the same way at all. So when I read accounts calling it a coo, I'm like, I don't hear it in the coo kind of way. But
I mean, the common family name is cuckoo, and that's an onomatopoetic description of what European cuckoo does. So, but I wouldn't call that cooing either. But I think the coo kind of is because they're cuckoos, they must coo.
Okay.
Maybe.
Do they ever make a beep beep noise?
Yeah, I've never heard them,
okay?
and I don't think I always wonder how they came up with that. What should we? They probably heard the cooing and said, we can't use that.
Yeah, exactly.
In my dreams, they meep meep.
They
do.
No question.
So
who doesn't want to be the Roadrunner in that cartoon?
I actually looked up where the beep beep came from, and so this is from Wikipedia, but they were talking about the cartoon, and they said the Roadrunner's beep beep sound was inspired by background artist Paul Julian's imitation of a car horn. Julian voiced the various recordings of the phrase used throughout the Roadrunner cartoons, although on screen he was uncredited for his work. So he came up with it, and yeah, that's it. But according to the animation, Julian's preferred spelling of the sound effect was either meep meep or mweep mweep. So it's not a beep.
Okay.
It seemed like he got overruled somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
Wikipedia didn't live back then for him to tell people how they're supposed to say it.
Exactly.
I went down a weird rabbit hole after looking at Roadrunner and the Wile E. Coyote, because I was actually trying to figure out, like, if a coyote actually is a threat, and it sounds like that they are a major threat to Roadrunners, and that they're a lot faster. I saw that Roadrunners can run up to 26 miles per hour, but coyotes can run up to 43 miles per hour.
Wow.
So
I mean, I just love the fact that someone came up with the idea for an entire show like that with only two individuals in the entire show, and it actually worked. And I'm still trying to imagine the pitch for that. Like, I've got this idea about a coyote and a Roadrunner.
Well, there were 49 shorts, like, within all the different animations, 49 different, like, 6-minute videos, so 49 different storylines all between that. And I was looking, some of my favorite titles, I wrote down the Fast and the Furious. This is back in, like, the 50s, was the Fast and the Furious. Scrambled Eggs, Hook, Line, and Stinker, Beep Prepared, Chaser on the Rocks, War and Pieces, and to beep or not to beep.
See, do you think about how much fun those writers had coming out with those?
Yeah,
Totally.
Think about how many reruns we saw of the same thing. There's only 49?
Yeah.
What? I must have seen the same thing dozens of times and didn't pay any
You were an
attention to it.
impressionable kid.
Yeah, well, I like the fact that the bird is smarter than the mammal by a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I also stumbled across the animators had 9 rules that they made for the cartoons. Do you mind if we go through them real quick?
Yeah, let's do it. Absolutely.
So the first rule was the Roadrunner cannot harm the coyote except by going beep beep.
True.
Second rule, no outside force can harm the coyote, only his own ineptitude or the failure of the Acme products.
I'm almost certain he gets struck by lightning once or twice.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know.
Acme.
I got to go back and watch now.
Yeah. Maybe it was the writer's strike.
Yeah, exactly.
The coyote could not stop any time the coyote could stop any time if he were not a fanatic. So because he's a fanatic, he won't stop. No dialogue ever except beep beep. The Roadrunner must stay on the road. Otherwise, logically, he would not be called a Roadrunner. All action must be conformed to the natural environment of the 2 characters, the Southwest American desert. All materials, tools, weapons, or mechanical conveniences must be obtained from the Acme Corporation.
Nice.
Whenever possible, make gravity the coyote's greatest enemy. And then the 9th rule from the animators was the coyote is always more humiliated than harmed by his failures.
Oh, good one. Yeah.
I'm not sure the coyote would think of those things being different.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
I know we're not talking about coyotes here, but I always was interested in the fact that the coyote never says anything.
Yeah.
Completely silent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
I loved those cartoons.
It's a good
So
show.
when I started reading the Wikipedia page, I was like, I want to talk about some of this.
I assume we can watch them online. Now I have to go back and watch a few.
I know.
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
49. If they're
49.
only 6
Yeah.
minutes,
We
it's
could
not
do
going to
it.
take
Yeah.
very long.
Yeah.
That's a bingeable experience.
Yes. Oh man, we were watching some video yesterday, and I was struck by how expressive they were with the crest on their head. And I was wondering, I know there's lots of birds that have that crest, but we were just amazed at how active it was. And with how is that like an eyebrow? Is that how they express emotions?
Yeah.
Or
Remember Marky, who we had on to talking about Wimbrels
Limpkins.
and
Yes.
Limpkins and stuff like that? Well, yeah, that's what she's going to study for her dissertation, because even though a lot of birds have crests, we don't know very much about them.
Oh, okay.
And what they use them for.
Okay.
Some birds have them but don't manipulate them.
Okay.
Some birds, like the Roadrunner, do a lot of manipulation with their crests.
And it's neat to think, there have to be muscles in there
Yes.
to actually allow that to happen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
muscles and nerve attachments. So what is the attachment of the feathers to the skull? What does that look like? How big are the muscles? What are their arrangements? So there's all kinds of things we don't know. We don't know in the genome the genes that contribute to making a crest. So we don't know if birds make crests in the same way across the tree of life.
And it's interesting. So you made the observation earlier that, and this is something that I think a lot of birds can do, but I think it's really noticeable when you look at roadrunners and you look at photographs, which is that they manipulate their feathers a lot. And I think a lot of that is because they're trying to control temperature in various ways. And so it's even in addition to the crest, they've also got these, Shannon was talking about the black patch in the neck, which they make accessible because they can actually spread the feathers out so that it can get the sun. And so I wonder if that's a precursor for helping them develop muscles on their head to move their crest around. But both sexes do it, as far as I know. And so it's not sexual selection or anything.
They have fluffy tails too, which I think are really pretty. But the desert's pretty hard on feathers, and their tails get pretty ratty. When you look at a lot of pictures, if you look at them at the right time of year, you can see the tails being more fluffy than And
they actually have a
they're
little bit
wearing...
of iridescence on them too, kind of. And I've always, I would say what I think of them as is an incredible rudder. So they're, when we were talking about how they're running on the ground, they're using that tail as a counterweight to help them make turns and things. And
very cool.
Well, I think we're getting kind of close on time for this one. Is there anything else we want to chat about, or can we jump into a mailbag question?
Well, we got to get you guys to Arizona to look at Roadrunners.
Yeah,
that's right.
They're like one of our new favorite birds to watch.
And they do have a post-copulation dance that there's videos of online too.
Wait, like a celebratory
dance?
But they pee out of their eyes.
I don't know.
Wait a minute.
Oh my gosh.
Well, to each their own, I suppose.
Yeah.
But
It's my favorite bird.
And they do bizarre things with fecal sacs from the babies. They clean them out of the nest. So the first poops that baby birds have are covered in a fecal sac, and they clean them out so their nests are really clean. They don't have that many parasites in their nests. So they're random factoids.
Very cool.
The mom cleans them out, or the babies clean out?
No, the parents do.
Oh, it's like
of
that'd
course,
be some responsible
yeah.
chicks.
But well, they are altricial, so they are born naked. But apparently, they start moving pretty fast. I've never seen a baby Roadrunner.
Well, they would have to get their feathers, and so they're in the nest for long enough to generate their feathers. No, what a fledgling Roadrunner looks like is not something I've seen.
That's cool.
So there you go. Go get some water by eating the fecal sac of your baby.
It's like Gatorade.
Yes, and then cry it out your eyes.
Okay.
So this is a question. This is from Zaya from Louisville, Kentucky. And she says, I finished reading The Feather Thief and would highly recommend it. I was looking through the acknowledgments and saw a thank you to Dr. John Bates at the Field Museum in Chicago. Is this the same John Bates that hosts my favorite podcast?
Yes, it is. And it was, that's, we could do a whole show on The Feather Thief, which people should, if you want to read a crazy story.
It's a true story, but it reads completely like a fiction story. You would never think somebody would think of doing what this kid did.
Yes.
Yeah. And just as a quick summary for folks, basically it illustrates issues with respect to maintaining natural history collections and situations where people have other things that they think would be really interesting to do with the birds. And in this case, this was the professional fish flying tying community, competitive fish fly tying community.
Some of those ties are worth tens of thousands of dollars. If you get bird of paradise feathers in it, there's a huge market. Who knew? That's what I had no clue. We've always conceived of someone potentially stealing specimens from our collection. That's why they're locked and why we monitor who's there. And we don't just let anybody go into the collections. But it never would have dawned on me that people were going to steal specimens and turn them into fly ties.
Which is exactly what this kid did at the British Museum in outside London. And when Kirk Johnson, the author of the book, was writing it, he was at the Peabody Museum in Yale, and he was working with the curator there, Rick Prum, and they called me up one day and said, John, we just found a picture of some of your birds on a dark web site related to fish fly tying, and my heart just sunk. And they sent me the picture, and I looked at it, and they were birds that actually weren't very old specimens in our collection, meaning they'd been collected actually by one of our graduate students in Peru. And I just went down to the collection, and I opened the drawers where they were supposed to be, and there they were. And what had happened was a photo from our collection had been posted somewhere on the web, and it was shared on the fish fly tying site, I guess, as sort of, it was some tanagers from South America, and they were just sort of saying, hey, these look really cool.
Oh gosh,
it's terrifying.
That is terrifying. Yeah.
And that's illegal, people.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
You can't possess migratory bird parts of North American birds. You can't bring birds from other countries into this country without the right permits. And we do all of that stuff legally. So we get the right permits to do work. We get the right permits from the scientific entities and governments to do what we do, to export them. We get the right permits in the U.S. to import them and to have them. So it's a very time-consuming, detailed process that we go through every year to be able to have the specimens that we have. So,
well, there's lots of chicken feathers in this world, and you can do some pretty amazing things with chicken feathers.
Yeah.
So it's crazy that it's one of the it's called The Feather Thief, and it's by Kirk Johnson, and it's a pretty amazing story.
All right. Well, I think that's it for this one then. I feel like when we were doing our remote recordings, we weren't having you close it out, John.
Oh, that's true. We weren't. Yeah, I haven't closed it out for a while.
Yeah.
Well, what should I say? I guess everybody should try to see if they can get excrete out of their eyes.
Oh, no.
Let us know what happens.
Don't go to the bathroom because you think that's going to be a way you can excrete your urinary waste. It's not a good idea, John.
All right.
I'm going to try.
Your bladder will explode and you will be very unhappy because it will not come out your eyes.
And we'll talk about it down the road.
Yeah.
That's right.
You have to take pictures. RJ can take
homework.
video of it. Amanda trying to pee out her eyes.
This podcast is not about video.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
audio.
Yes, we'll describe it.
Yeah, it's working. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. We appreciate it. I wanted to circle back to the intro of the episode where Shannon was talking about her frustrations with her insurance coverage of her hearing loss and being denied a cochlear implant. Illinois has some crazy coverage restrictions, it sounds like, so if anyone has any experience or means to help, please reach out. Shannon recently went on a different podcast and talked about her hearing loss journey to help people relate and not feel so alone. We'll post a link to that episode in our show notes if you want to listen and learn more about Shannon's hearing loss journey. You can reach out to us at podcast.birdsofafeather@gmail.com. All right, thanks everyone, and see you all next week.